When you are building React application, one of the problems you will always have to solve is how to display a list of items on the screen. For example, you may be asked to display the list of products, employees, users, and so on and so forth. In React.js, the best way to display a list of items on the screen is by using the map method. The map method allows you to iterate over an array and modify its element using a callback function. The callback function will then be executed on each of the array's elements. Take note, map is not a feature of React. Instead, it is a standard JavaScript function that could be called on any array. Let's practicalize it quickly so that everyone will understand it well enough. Go ahead to create a new component. Right within the components directory, hit on New File. This will be called EmployeeList.js. Generate the functional component. Let's close down the Explorer. So right here, we are going to create an array of employees. Const employees equal, open and close square bracket. And right within the array, we are going to have Daisy, comma, we are going to have Mike, comma, Joe, and lastly, we are going to have Angela. Notice that I used a plural word over here. It is indeed a good practice to always use a plural word when naming your array. Simply because an array is a collection of elements with a similar data type. So here we have several elements right within the array. Let's continue. Now, the major challenge over here is to display the list of employees on the browser. So, ordinarily, we can also do that using the array index. So, right within this div, we are going to have a h2 tag. So, right within the h2 tag, we are going to specify a curly bracket. And then, right within this bracket, we then have to access the element in the array. And of course, to access the first element in the array, we have to make use of array index of 0. So right now, I'm going to do employees, square bracket, 0. So this is going to retrieve the first element in this array. Highlight, duplicate it 3 times. And then to access the second element, we have to use index 1, index 2, and lastly, for the fourth element, index 3. Command P, let's head on to the app.js. And over here, we have to render the employees list. First, we have to import employee list from component/employees list. And down below, we just have to render the component over here. And then close it up with the soft closing tag. And on the browser, here are they. Now we have the list of employees displayed on the browser. Alright, so this approach may appear simple and working fine. Yeah, but it has a very huge drawback. Let me show you quickly. Back to VS Code, employees list. When you observe the screen, you will realize that it involves repetition of code. So let's imagine we have thousands of employees right within this collection. So it then means that we have to do this 1,000 times. We are going to have something like this by targeting the right index 1,000 times. This will make our code to be extremely noisy, and that won't be nice at all. So, following the best practices, we have to use the map method to perform iteration on the array. Alright, so let's quickly undo. Beautiful. So now we just have to clear off the h2 tag. Let's start from scratch. The map method is a JavaScript code that needs to be evaluated. Right, so we have to wrap it up in a curly bracket. The next in line is to call the map method on the array. Usually the syntax is array.map. So this exactly is the syntax, but in this case, the name of the array over here is employees. So I'm just going to do employees.map. The map method takes in a function as an argument, and in this case, an arrow function. Okay? And also, the arrow function takes in an argument which I'm going to call employee. So this employee over here represents each element in the array. Okay? You can decide to change the name of this argument, but I highly suggest you use a descriptive name that is relevant to the array you are iterating over. It's as simple as that. Alright, so right within the function body is where the transformation would take place. So for every employee, we are going to return a h2 tag with the employee as an inner HTML. Return, we are going to have a h2 tag, and right within the h2 tag, we are going to return the employee as an inner HTML, which is this argument over here that represents each element in the array. It's as simple as that. Save on the browser. Here are they. Beautiful. So this problem we just solved is quite simple. Let's pick a more complex scenario. Back to VS Code. In a real-world organization, employees' details will include employee's name, ID, phone number, and so on and so forth. Alright, so let's quickly make an employees object to include all of these details. Right within the square brackets, I'm just going to wipe off the elements and then hit the enter key like this. We are going to have an object right within the array. So right within this object, we are going to have the properties and its value. And in this case, the employee's details. We are going to have name, separate it with the comma. We are going to have gender, male, separate it with the comma. We are going to have country, UK. And lastly, we are going to have age. So you can choose to have as much as employees details as you like. But for me, I'm just going to stop here. So right outside the object, we are going to separate it with the comma. Now we are going to highlight and then duplicate it as many times as you like. But make sure to change the details, which is the values. So right here, I'm going to change these to Daisy. Sorry. Okay, this is going to be female. And here, we're going to do 19. So you just have to change the details at your end. And I'm done with mine. Can you see? Beautiful. Alright, so this approach is no longer going to work for this object. Simply because we are no longer dealing with string. So right here, I'm going to wipe off the h2 tag and then open and close parentheses. Right within the parentheses, we are going to have a h2 tag. And right within the h2 tag, we have to display the employee as an inner HTML. And in this case, the employee over here represents each object in the list. And to access the properties, we have to make use of the dot operator. And here I'm going to do employee dot name. So when we target the property, the value will be retrieved. It's as simple as that. Highlight, duplicate it 4 times. And we have some error over here. It says GSS expressions must have one parent element. Come here, we are going to have a parent div. So right within this div, highlight and then move the code in. So here we are going to have employee.gender, employee.country, and lastly, employee.age. Save on the browser. Can you see? Everything is displayed on the browser, functioning perfectly fine as expected. Now we have the list of employees on the screen, but there is another approach to do this just in one line. And that is with the use of string interpolation, which is object literals. Head on to VS Code and let's do that quickly. Let's get rid of everything here, wipe it off. Now so we have to make the code clean a little bit. Perfect. So here we are going to have another h2, and right within the h2 tag, we are going to have a curly braces. Right within the curly braces, we are going to make use of the string interpolation. To do that, we just have to specify the backtick. And the backtick is located at the top left corner of the keyboard, right below the escape key. Here I'm going to do name. We're going to have a $sign, open and close curly bracket, and I'm going to do employee.name. Come here, and here we're also going to have a gender, employee.gender. We are going to have country, employee.country. And lastly, we are going to have age, employee.age. Save. Alright, so let's quickly format this code with Predia. Format document with Predia. I think the code is looking pretty right now. So you can have a look. Do you see? Let me zoom out a little bit. And here is it. Take a look. Can you see? All right. Let's check it out on the browser. Can you see that? Everything is working perfectly fine as expected. I love it. All right, so after mapping, another thing most developers do is to destructure the code. Let me quickly teach you how to do that. So to destructure the code, we are going to come here and then we can have a regular JavaScript function or even a component. So now I'm going to do const, open and close curly brackets. We want to destructure the name, comma, gender, comma, country, and age, and then assign it to the actual employee. It's as simple as that. So having done this, we no longer need to use the dot operator to access the properties. So now we will be able to access it directly. Come here, select employee dot, and then press hold the command key on your keyboard. Tap letter D to select all the occurrences of employees dot. It's as simple as that. And then wipe it off. Save. Press the escape key to disable the multi-cursor editing. And on the browser, there are these. Beautiful. And now the code looks more concise and more readable. I love it like this. Alright, so following the best practices, the next in line is to refactor the code. And by refactoring the code, I simply mean we should improve the structure of our code to enhance readability and maintainability. So the way to do that is to separate the logic from the presentation component. Let's do that quickly. So we do not want all the logic to be written over here. Okay, so we have to hide the logic in a separate component. Open up the Explorer. Right within the component directory, create a new file. And this will be called employee.js. Generate the functional component. Quickly go back to the employees list. Then we have to highlight from lines 33 to lines 38. Command X to cut. Go back to employee. Select from lines 4 to 6. Wipe it off and then Command V to paste. So having done this, we have to map through this component, which is the employees component. Go back to employees list, scroll up. So right at the top, we have to import employee from /employee. Right below, we have to render it here. Close it up with the self-closing tag. So the next in line is to pass the details as probes. So right within the employee, we are going to have name equal employee.name. We're going to have gender employee.gender. And we have country equal employee.country. And lastly, we have age equal employee.age. All right, so we just have to format the code. Beautiful. We have succeeded in passing all of these details as probes down into the employee component. So the next in line is to receive the probes. So quickly head on to the employee. And first, we have to receive it by passing probes as parameter right within the function. And after that, we have to assign it to probes. Save. Check it out on the browser. Alright, we have a blank screen. Okay, go back to VS Code. Everything appears fine over here. Let's check out the employees list. Alright, so we have to take off the curly bracket. Wipe it off. Come here, wipe it off. And as well, take off the semicolon. Save on the browser. And there are these. Everything appears to be working perfectly fine. But when we inspect the console, take a look. We are going to see this annoying error over here that says each child in a list should have a unique key probe. Let's do that in the next lecture. See you then.